Hello, I'm Chai Hofilenia. On September 23, world leaders gathered in New York to discuss the urgent global consequences of climate change and issues that developing countries like the Philippines are lobbying for. The Philippines is the third most disaster-prone country in the world. During the UN Climate Summit, President Benigno Aquino asked his counterparts to give the Philippines financial and technological support to help it adapt to extreme weather events. But Filipino activists called on Aquino to walk the talk on climate change, criticizing his administration for approving more coal plants. With us today is environmental lawyer Antonio Opoza to talk about what steps the Philippines should take after the UN gathering. Hello, Tony.
Hello, good evening sa inyo dyan.
Yes, good evening din sa'yo, sa amin. And sa inyo, is it morning?
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yes. You're still there. And the summit just finished very recently. What were the high points for you personally?
Well, the most important point is that there is a general consensus that the climate crisis is happening. And world leaders are saying the same thing, are singing the same song. How we translate this level of awareness, pagkamalayan na bagong pagkakamalayan into on the ground action is what is the challenge. Yun ang challenge, no? Dahil, but in the international world, things move very slowly.
Yes.
But we are being caught up. I mean, sometimes too slow that events catch up without us knowing, without us being prepared.
Did the summit meet your expectations, or did you set very, very low expectations, very realistic expectations?
I didn't have any expectations at all. Not even just low. Mabuti na yung wala kang expectation. And if you have a zero expectation, one is 100% more. So that's a major step in the international global diplomacy, especially in environmental law or in environment. Mabagal ang lahat. Mabagal, sobrang bagal, nakakainip.
So, the fact ba na nagsama-sama ang over 100 countries sa New York para pag-usapan ng climate change is already a big thing? Kailangan matuwa na tayo doon.
Yes, and to the credit of Mr. Ban Ki-moon, the Secretary General, napag-usapan yan. Although conspicuously wala doon yung China, yung India, yung mga malalaking emitters, wala doon. Hindi rin na sila nagpadala ng representative. So, but, the fact na napag-usapan, isang bagay na pag-usapan is already a very big thing.
How about the President's speech? Masaya ka ba with what he declared,
Well,
what he committed to?
Yes, generally, he spoke of, he said very good things. No? That number one, the debate is over. Alam na natin yun. Hindi na natin pinag-uusapan yan. You know, my first article on climate change was 1989. It was published in a national newspaper in the Philippines. Of course, nobody read it. And that everybody must do our share. Diba? Lahat tayo kailangan gumalaw. And that we have done quite a lot too. I mean, to be fair, we've done our forecasting, our geo hazard mapping, and then we already passed the renewable energy. There's still problem always of implementation. Alam mo naman tayo, laws in the Philippines are only suggestions. It always bogs down in the implementation. And he also said that we are bearing the disproportionate risk of the climate crisis. I don't call it climate change, by the way. I call it the climate crisis.
Crisis levels na kasi.
Oo, crisis na yan eh. And that the question of, you raised the point about still approving coal-fired power plants.
Yes.
It should be interesting. Well, yung law ng Section 5, I think, of the law on creating the Department of Energy as early as 1990s, early 1990s, already said so, that we should be shifting to renewable energy. Already, without that, we don't even need that renewable energy law, sana. But then, hindi yata, alam mo, again, laws in the Philippines are not only suggestions, they're only hints. But,
Suggestions. Okay.
oh, no, hints nga lang, hint lang. Uh, Ngayon, it would be interesting to see the energy mix of the Philippines from 1992 to the present, kung gaano ba kalaki pa rin yung coal. But then, our leaders should understand that we should begin to be shifting away from the fossil fuels. And if at all, itong mga coal na ito is only transitional. Kasi we are being faced with a very serious energy crisis next summer.
Yes.
I read it can go up to about 800 megawatts. And then, meron na naman tayong Renewable Energy Act. Paspasan na lang yan pag-implement. For example, in Cebu, the Visayan Electric Company, the company there, is actually advocating for renewable energy in houses. Individual houses, like, and then financing is available. Sa Manila, my son is into renewable energy. Mabagal ang galaw sa distributors. So we should begin shifting away and then individualize the time for centralized grids, yung central power stations, is already phasing out. Dahil it will be more distributive energy na yung sarili mong bahay, you produce your own electricity. And people can afford it. I mean, with financing available, there is now, we just need to really focus on that.
What is doable, Tony? Kasi minsan if you talk about climate change and doing our bit, it's always at the level of the UN,
Okay.
Regional level. Ang hirap
No.
niyang ibaba to individual houses, even to the individual.
Okay.
What exactly can we do?
Yeah, very simple, very simple. The problem of climate is not, it will never be solved by the United Nations. If you attend the UN Framework on Climate Change Conventions, the conference of the parties, you will be totally disenchanted and totally dispirited. Mawawalan ka ng gana kasi
Bakit
wala
naman?
talagang nangyayari dyan. At saka kung meron man, papel lang yan, sulat lang yan. What really matters is what an individual can do. For example, turning off lights when you are not using it. Turning off the TV. Alam, uso ngayon yung TV na may, anong tawag dito? Remote control.
Yes.
Do you know that that remote control, I mean that TV, naka-on yung pilot lamp, that is on all throughout the day, 24/7, kahit walang nanonood. It sucks out your energy. If you just turn that off, unplugged it, yung microwave, ganun din, you just unplug it. I mean, simple, basic, common sense ideas. And so, what is doable? First, energy conservation. Never mind the production. We will never produce as much energy as we waste. Kasi napaka-wasteful natin eh.
I remember, I remember years ago, napauso yung daylight savings time. Is that something that we should try also?
Oh yes, you know, this was during the time of Cory Aquino. And I am happy to say that it was I who suggested it. I wrote a letter to then Presidential Legal Counsel Florida Ruth Romero. Na use, you extend kasi the hours.
Yes.
Let's say you extend the daylight hours. That's one. No? But there are many options. For example, another option is meron ng batas na Executive Order 774 dated 2008 na dapat yung mga neon lights, yung mga advertising lights must be turned off at about 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the evening. That's a lot of electricity that's saved. We should launch rather, you're talking about what's doable right away.
Yes.
This afternoon, the President can start thinking about energy conservation. And not only thinking about, but launching yung tutuhanan na energy conservation measures, how to, yung talagang seryoso. May batas na nga na ito-turn off yung mga ilaw sa gabi, yung mga advertising lights. So that's a lot of electricity that's being saved. Yung mga malls, for example, uh, they can do away with so much air conditioning. They can just, they say that if you increase your thermostat by 1 degree, kunyari nasa 18 ka, 18 centigrade or 20 centigrade,
Sa
if you just
aircon.
increase it to sa aircon,
Yes.
you can increase it by 20 to in 21, which is not going to make a lot of difference. That will save you 10% electricity already.
The president also mentioned, no, dun sa speech niya, that there is a need for financing to support countries like the Philippines who have borne the brunt of climate change. Do you agree with this na kailangan meron talagang support from more developed countries?
Diyan kami hindi nagkakaintindi. Diyan ako hindi sangayon. Kasi hindi natin kailangan ng pera. Kailangan natin ng sentido komún. We do not need money. For example, what do we need it for? In the first place. In fact, we have so much money that we are not absorbing it. We're not using it efficiently. We're not even using it at all. There's aid money available. There's even loan money available. So we don't need that. What we need is common sense. What is the impact? What are the things that we need to do? For example, we can just break it down into land, air, and water. On land, we have to preserve our soil. Kasi yan pinanggagalingan yung pagkain natin. So we have the best example of soil conservation in the world. What is that? The Banawi rice terraces. We can just do sloping agricultural land technology. That's not a lot of money. That's bayanihan. Water. We have two problems of water in Metro Manila and elsewhere, even in Cebu. Ngayon, kabaha-baha. Anong problema sa Cebu? Anong problema sa Manila? Two things. One, sobrang baha pag mayroong ulan. At saka number two, subsidence kasi higop tayo ng higop ng tubig galing sa ilalim sa ating groundwater. So tumutuyo yung ating groundwater tapos bumababa yung lupa. They call it subsidence. No? Bumababa, nagsusubside yun. So anong solusyon dyan? Hukayan mo lang yung mga bakanting lupa, hukayan mo, especially the low-lying areas, hukayan mo, you have a rainwater catchment and then that will absorb back into the soil. How much money does that need? Nothing. I have one small rainwater catchment of about 10 square meters in front of my house in the Cavite area. It cost me 1,000 pesos. Makakapagtrabaho pa. Tapos yung palibot, those of you who are listening, look at the concept of rain garden. It's called a rain garden. Find the lowest, hanapin mo yung pinakamababa lugar sa lugar mo. Tapos hukayan mo lang ng konti, 1 meter deep or even half a meter deep para may daluyan lang yung tubig. So those are very, very simple solutions that do not need a lot of money but need a lot of common sense and will even rekindle the bayanihan spirit of the Filipino.
Okay, we hope there would be a lot of people watching and listening to you, and they would hopefully do that, try the catchment in their respective areas. There's a quick question from social media here from Keynes Horario. What are the long-term solutions to reduce the effect of climate change? Is there any legal move that can help us with this problem?
The question again is what are the long-term that will...
what are the long-term
that will-
solutions to reduce the effect of climate change?
Alam mo,
Tapos question niya, meron
yung-
bang legal remedies or legal steps that we can take?
Well, I think the question is, what are the long-term remedies to address the effects? Alam mo, sa totoo lang, nandyan na yan eh. Wala na tayong magagawa dyan eh. So, yung atin na lang, yun yung i-address natin, yung mga epekto. Like, yun nga, epekto baha. So, anong gagawin natin sa baha? Sisimentohin natin yung lupa para walang mapuntahan yung tubig. Di ba? I mean, again, common sense. Are there legal remedies? you look at Executive Order 774, dated 2008, December 26. It's all there. Yung solid waste management, for example, I read in the news, I read in the internet recently, na problema ng baha, isa sa mga sanhi ng baha sa Pilipinas dahil yung kalat ng basura, na may batas na tayo niyan eh. Hindi lang natin natutupad.
So
Yun
walang
ang ating-
enforcement ng batas.
Well, kulang, malaking kulang. But, marami namang problema yung mga tao. So, ang solusyon, mga kaibigan, huwag natin tingnan si Pinoy. Si Pinoy, another 600 years is gone. In fact, another 360 days, nobody is going to listen to him. That's the reality of politics. Diba? Ngayon pa lang, magulo na eh. So, do not look at your leaders for solutions. Look at yourselves for solutions.
How about local government
Local
leaders?
government, yes. I was
Oo.
just going to go there.
Yes.
Unang-una tayo, pag wala tayong gamit sa TV, i-unplug natin or bumili ka ng power switch na merong switch mo. So, ang laki ng savings mo niyan. Yung mga ilaw na hindi ginagamit, yung mga charger nyo sa mga computer, pag hindi na-charge na, di-off nyo. I mean, those are very simple things that you can do within yourselves. Now, going to the barangay level, solid waste management, for example, is a barangay level. Yung basura ay is a barangay level responsibility. So yung mga local governments, dapat sila ang natutunghay ng problema na yan, all the way to local mayors. As they say, think global, act local. Lahat ng solusyon nandito sa atin. Huwag niyong hintayin ng gobyerno. Naku, maraming inaatupag ang gobyerno.
Pero Tony,
yeah.
looking lang, zooming out, no, parang because after the UN meeting in New York, yung next summit or the next meeting will be in Lima this December and then Paris next year. What happened in New York, sapat na ba ito? Parang, do you think there was enough momentum that was generated for the next succeeding meetings?
No. There will be momentum, but there will always be disagreement. I represent Micronesia. I represented Micronesia in the climate change negotiations, for example. And pag pumunta ka ron, madidismaya ka lang na walang nangyayari dyan. Pati kama pinag-uusapan. Kaya napaiyak yan si Yeb kasi sa frustration ng tao na mabubuisit ka talaga kasi and then lahat ng pinag-uusapan doon yung when you talk about responsibility, when you talk about liability, hindi yan mangyayari kasi yung mga responsible will always evade or block their responsibility. And I liken it to after listening to all of these debates, I liken it to mag-asawa. Yung mag-asawa or mag-boyfriend mabuti pa. Pero mag-asawa, nagmamahalan na nga yan, dalawa lang yan sila. And presumably they're in love with each other. Hindi nga nagkakaintindihan at all points, di ba? Maramihan nga, naghihiwalay pa nga eh. Ano pa kaya kung bansa, 195 countries, ang mag-uusap over something so contentious? Lalo nang hindi magkakaintindihan yan. And if at all there will be any agreement, it will be far too little, too late. So, kumbaga, kailangan gawin 100, pwede nang mag-usap sila kung sa sinasabi mong momentum. Merong pag-uusapan niya, may agreement yan, 1 over 100. So, malayo pa yung pupuntahan. It will not address the problem.
Okay, thank you very much for reminding us. Kasi the tendency is to look at the big summits where countries come together. But you're telling us essentially that we should really begin with ourselves, start with our communities, even our own respective homes and barangays, if we want something really to happen insofar as addressing climate change problems are concerned. We've been talking to environmental lawyer Antonio Aposa about what's next for the Philippines after the biggest gathering of world leaders on climate change. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Chai Hofilenya.
Okay.
Thank you, Tony.
Salamat. Okay.